Hello, folks. Welcome to the Rangecast. This is your number one destination for all things cannabis. This is where we light up the conversations, we blaze through the boundaries, and we harvest those insights from pioneers of the industry and the leaders in the green revolution. I'm your host, Mark Wallace, as always, and with me also is Desmond Johnson, who is, as always, your MC, the DJ, and together we're going to navigate this growing industry. We're going to unmask the entrepreneurs, we're going to talk to the innovators, and we're going to lead in with the advocates who are redefining the world of weed as we know it. So welcome to the Rangecast. Let's get rolling. I'm very excited about this guest that we have today. I know Desmond and I have been looking forward to this episode for several months. Speaking of the industry experts, we have one of the truly experts who is one of our clients as well. He is the director of operations of the up-and-coming big MSO that I know is going to take over the country here soon, Altius Dispensary. I am proud to welcome Isaac Carreno, who is the director of operations.
Thank
Welcome,
you.
brother. How we doing?
Pretty good, man. I saw you rolled your R. I appreciate
You
that.
like that? You like that? I'm glad
I
I got
like
it
that, man. Yeah,
okay.
I'm happy to be here with you guys today, man. I've been looking forward to it too. Seen a couple of your episodes, and yeah, just happy to be here, man.
Love it. I love it. Well, I'm excited. Like I said, this has been, you guys have been a client for, I want to say almost 2 years now. A lot of exciting things going on your end, really, is being in Illinois, being a recreational dispensary, and now in the process of becoming a multi-state operator.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see what you guys do. I'd love to, from you, hear a little bit about your backstory. I'd love for you to share with me what led you to get into the cannabis industry and led you to start working with Illinois, Altius in Illinois.
Yeah, so kind of unexpected, right? So I think just growing up, I'm from San Diego, California, right? So I
Okay.
think part of the culture there was very cannabis related. And when I went to college up north, Humboldt County, that was the mecca. So really, that was where my first introduction into cannabis came. Right, I was playing sports up there. Alternatively to pain meds, I decided to try cannabis, and it worked for me. But for a long time, when I first came to Illinois, I wasn't consuming. I
Mm-hmm.
was running some of the Verizon stores. I became a director for Target. So I was doing a lot of that. And so why cannabis? Why did I join the industry? Listen, I saw an industry that was absolutely in its infancy. And that was my initial thought. I wanted to be part of something that was growing. When you think about Target, when you think about Verizon, these are very established companies, right? There's incremental growth, but what's happening with cannabis, I mean, you're literally getting to build it from the ground up. And what better way than to join a company like Altius, which is just kind of rolling over everyone and crushing everyone, right? So I like to look at myself as a juggernaut, but Altius is the true juggernaut, and I get to be a part of it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know.
That is.
Jeff, who's the CEO and founder, is a really cool cat. I don't know everything about his backstory. I've heard the rumors, the things that he's told me here and there in the past.
Yeah,
I know he owned a company that had over 200 storefronts that was ended up getting acquired by Apple Eye Care, which is just crazy.
yeah.
So one of those entrepreneur spirits, and he clearly surrounds himself with the right people, and you're a testament to that. Um, one of the most unique things for me is, and I always preach this, is the cannabis dispensaries that truly thrive and do right by what the industry is supposed to be about are the ones who create a unique, really immersive experience for the consumers, right? And one of the first things that stood out to me back in the infancy when you guys were building your initial store was Jeff and his team hired in an architect from Disney to actually design and build out the inside of that store. And the store it looks like something from like a mix of just Wild Dreams to Willy Wonka. I don't even know how to describe it, but it is one of the coolest looking stores I've ever seen. Tell me a little bit about the conceptual ethos from an operational standpoint around that culture and that experience that you try to give everyone, whether it's online or in store.
Yeah. I think, that's really the difference. When you step into any dispensary, a lot of times we're selling a lot of the same products, right?
Mhm.
That's the truth.
Mhm.
What separates you? I think initially from when you first pull up, I remember pulling up to the parking lot, looking at the outside. I'm like, wow, right? Already looks super beautiful. You walk in, you start seeing the art on the wall, you start seeing the Medusa, just sort of almost that Greek feel, Disneyland feel, like you said,
Yeah.
right? And when you think about it, it's really an experience from beginning to end. And that's really what the difference is. When someone first walks in, visuals really impact someone. I think, just from my Target days, I can tell you even how you set the colors for apparel matters from a customer perspective, right? It makes them feel a certain way. But when you walk into Altius, you get that same feel, and you get it from beginning to end, and you get it from the people that work here, and you get it from the visuals, and you get it from the product. And so I think that was the concept that they originally wanted to set out and do, is how do we make it the best experience from beginning to end? Because that's the difference. That's what makes you different than other dispensaries.
That's it, and that's what is so important, right? Because there are so many of the same. You're dealing with the same brands within a single market, right? So how do you set yourself apart? And I'm curious too, because you really are the core behind the operations of the dispensary, and you're in the process of a huge expansion right now into multiple new states. What is your plan, and how do you really work to, other than the branding and that immersive experience that you set up from the
Yeah.
culture and things, what else are you guys doing to really set Altius apart from other dispensaries?
That's a really good question, right? I think just the industry in general, when we talk about cannabis industry,
Hmm.
that's a couple different phases, right? The industry itself, on a national perspective, you got states that are very mature in the cannabis industry. You got those that are in its infancy, and then you kind of almost have that third stage where some are starting to struggle, right?
Mm.
So what's really gonna set this apart is not only the things we talked about from it looking cool, but also from how do we actually grow our market. I think what you're getting into right now is a lot of dispensaries trading customers back and forth, right? They want the customer acquisition, they want the retention. That's all good and fine, but is that truly growing our market, the amount of people that are consuming cannabis and trying cannabis? And I think the answer is no. And I think what we're trying to do at Altius is actually do that. That's going to create an environment where all dispensaries can survive, where we can survive and continue to grow. And we've done it from many perspectives, right? Not just the questions that we have our bud tenders asking customers to build a good consultation. We've also introduced technology like AI bud tender to make sure that even when you're at a kiosk or online, we're giving you the most tailored recommendations possible based on how you want to feel and your preferred method of consumption, right? And I think third to that is just some new stuff that we're also doing from a scientific angle,
Mm.
where we can even test your DNA and give you the most tailored solution in the world.
That's
So I think,
incredible.
That's wild.
yeah, I feel like that's what really sets us apart, is we're not only focused on one angle, we're focused on hitting this thing from every possible perspective to make sure that our customers have the best experience and that we're actually growing the amount of people that are trying cannabis.
That's great. I love that. And I know we've talked a little bit about that DNA stuff offline, and it's crazy
Yeah.
what they can do now. A lot of people don't realize that we as individual humans have very unique profiles. The cannabinoid profiles of our body and of our DNA
Yeah.
are unique to each of us, and how cannabis affects us is very unique to all of us. So I'm excited to see how that evolves, because it's going to be a unique offering that you guys have paired with, and it's going to bring a lot of insight to the industry. Um, Going into this, speaking on the industry of a higher level, though, you brought up a good point. The industry of Illinois is very different than the industry as a whole, right? And each market that you're going into is unique. And I'm curious, what have you, because of your experience and being coming from the mecca of cannabis,
Yes.
going into and working in a market like Illinois, what is it about Illinois that allowed you and your store to become so successful? And what is, as a second part to that question, the acquisition and growth direction when you look at new markets to expand into? Kind of what makes that determination factor as you expand?
So that's a really good question, right? And I think this is where I cannot take the credit, right? I cannot take the credit. This is where I think from inception, you got two owners that are, first of all, some of the most amazing people, right? Super focused on people, and they're genuinely just good guys.
Hmm.
But one's coming from really the restaurant world and owning bars and having that background in hospitality, and you got the other one who, as you stated, he's very business focused, very analytic, and so they're both great businessmen, great people. So you have different perspectives. I think, for us when we're looking to expand, you really could take two routes, and I think that's what's happening right now in the industry. One, you can go for quantity. You can open up a ton of dispensaries, and are you going to get the revenue? Maybe. Are you going to make as much per location? Probably not. And is that model the most successful? I don't know. But I can tell you that the approach that we're taking is much more calculated, and I think that's what the owners of the company actually did. They took a very calculated approach, and I think what made this flourish is they were patient in terms of the location. I mean, think about it.
Mhm.
When you talk about retail, you talk about location, location, location. Well,
Mhm.
what if all of a sudden, you don't get to choose from that many locations because you got to have the zoning behind it. So all of a
Yep.
sudden that gets reduced. So what a lot of people said is, well, I guess we're not going to get the cream of the crop in location, so let's just open them up wherever we can. And I can tell you that's not the approach that these owners are taking. They're being patient, they're being strategic, calculated, and I think that is what's really setting it apart, right? As the market becomes saturated, because it's going to be, did you position yourself and did you set yourself up for success? And did you have a plan B? And I think that's really where we're at, right? And how the direction that we're taking. So we're focused on, sure, we want the quantity eventually, but we're more so focused on quality right now, quality of location, quality of experience, quality of product, and just really being calculated. And I think that's what's going to set us apart.
Absolutely. I actually love that. I come from the M&A space as well. So I've seen, some people think that they can just take one business and because it did well somewhere else, they can just drop it somewhere else and it'll be like, okay, it'll do just as well. It's not the case at all. So you have to be calculated when it comes to where you're putting them, especially like some buildings. We have some in New York where some people just like, oh, I really want that one. So let me go secure that lease when the zoning wasn't even correct. So like you can't even put a dispensary in there. And you were just excited about the foot traffic, but you have to look out for these things. So like the way you're going about that strategy is extremely, extremely smart. I like that.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
What is the, because again, I mean, some of the numbers and the results that we see working together for Altius in Illinois are incredible, right? I'm blown away by just the traffic numbers that you guys get. And this isn't even a plug about range. I mean, it really is a testament to you guys because just we've seen other Illinois dispensaries and they're not pulling the kind of revenue and traffic numbers that you guys are. And it's really exciting to see. What is your projection being in the Illinois market for so long? And obviously there's other, markets you're going into. How do you foresee the Illinois market evolving, right? Obviously it's evolved a bit over the years that you've been in it. What do you feel are some of the strengths and also some of the challenges that are up and coming with Illinois market currently?
Yeah. So first of all, I'll tell you right now, right? You talked about what set us apart, and I want to go back to that for a second. Having a strong marketing company, like Rain, I'm gonna give you that shout out, man.
I appreciate it.
You can't really do it without that, right? Because I think initially just the amount of people that we're reaching and the strategy behind that, all the way down to the website, all the granular information and what Range did to really gain a good understanding of our business model and where we were headed and executing it, seeing it come to life. I think that, that deserves to be recognized. So I'll start there. I had to roll back and give you
No,
that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely. But I think the flip side is, you asked me, it's ever changing, right? What are some of the challenges? I think, listen, some of the biggest ones come from regulatory compliance, right? Those are some of the biggest challenges. Think about it. In traditional retail, people love to see the product that they're going to buy. If it's food, they love to, smell it, and they like to see it in front of them. And what you're running into now is you don't have all those sensory things. You just don't, right? You go to a dispensary and you're really looking at a screen. You're not getting to look at those type of things, right? Those sensory things that might make you want to purchase. So I think those are some of the biggest challenges, and how do you overcome that? And I think the best thing that we've done is as I stated before, taking really a scientific approach, right? Rather than focusing on how good flower smells and looks, it might smell and look really good, but is it good for your body? And so really for us, it's been more of an educational thing. What kind of signage do we have in the store? What kind of visuals? Is our team educated on the products and can they speak to them? Are they excited about them? We like to hook our team up with several samples, which a lot of dispensaries do. I think the difference is we seek for feedback from our team. We don't just hand these products out. We actually seek that feedback, and when we want to know specifically, why did you like it? You know, and I think that's what's going to set anyone apart is that, right? Like focusing on the controllables, the things you can control. But the biggest hurdle is that.
Yeah, and one of the parts that I always worry about, right, is markets, because I would say Illinois is very much in a hot spot when you kind of look at the ebbs and flow of markets. It's hot right now, right? But I also look at too, and a lot of our, we have a lot of clients in every stage of the market that there is, going back, been in the industry for 11 years. So we've got clients in like Barbary Coast, grassroots. We got clients out in California, who've been with us for long times, and seeing the markets that are legacy like that, and knowing in then markets like Colorado and now Michigan that are going through a really weird phase, right? Michigan is struggling right now because they're in this deep, what some call the race to the bottom mentality, right? And we just saw it kind of hit rock bottom in Colorado. Same thing, and Michigan's on its way, where all of a sudden things hit the point of the demand is kind of equal to the supply, and it starts to get very saturated, and it's not as lucrative, and all of a sudden that mentality of hyper discounting, we see that as the common trend that happens, is dispensaries will get scared and they'll go into stop focusing on that experience that you and I talked about, that really focusing on who you are, what your experience is, and who your customer is, and the relationship that you build. And they're like, I have to beat the next door neighbor. I have to hyper discount and undercut the next guy just to get more people in my door. And then the next guy does the same thing back. And then it's this race, and they lose sight of profitability at that point. I mean, I've seen it where dispensaries all of a sudden, after a year, they go to look at their numbers, and they lost sight that they were unprofitable
Such a
for
good point.
8 months. It's crazy.
Such a good point, right? So this is actually something I preach quite a bit, right? And it's really being smart. If you're discounting something 20% off, 30% off, and you're doing it for a week straight, then just switch pricing at that point, because that's all you're doing. It's not even a deal anymore, and you're not creating a sense of urgency. So I think you're spot on. See, I think the biggest thing is that we like to believe that other dispensaries, are undercutting us, and they may be based on your promotion, but really, who sets the price? Because it's not the cheapest dispensary and the cheapest discount. It's actually still the street. We don't like to look at that as a factor. We don't like to look at that as a factor, but it's very, very real, right? That the cheapest price is the street price. It's not the other dispensaries. And so, if you look at it that way, all of a sudden, even if someone undercuts you, then you're always going to have a better price out there. So then it comes down to, once again, quality of product and the right product for each and every person. And I think you're spot on. You look at Michigan, and you have some businesses that have double-digit locations. I mean, somewhere in the 20s and 30s, and it's just like, at what point does it actually become just not a good idea to open up that many locations? And that's what you're seeing there. I think that was a mistake, and I hope and I think that here it should be a little bit limited, right? There should be more restrictions when it comes to distance, right? I think. Because once again, we get into that back and forth of trading customers. So if we're really looking at it, what can we do to prepare ourselves for that to happen? Understand that, once again, the cheapest price did not come from another dispensary. So focus on the things you can control, like being smart about your marketing, being smart about your profit and procurement, and all those things, right? We have to be financially responsible in our approach, and we have to create a sense of urgency for customers to actually want to come in for those deals. And I think it's also understanding what days of the week you need to do that in and pull those levers. And it's not always the same, and it's not the same from market to market or dispensary to dispensary. You have a different customer base. So really, how do you partner with some of the local dispensaries too? You have, not too far from us, you have, a vertically integrated company that also has. So how do you partner with them, right? Because it becomes friendly competition. Well, one of the best examples of partnering with them is, guess what? They're already marketing their product, and they're not too far away from you. So maybe you should form a good partnership, because you already got some marketing there from that perspective. customers in that area understand that that product is incredible, right? And it becomes that we're getting the traffic from the north, and we recognize that they're going to get the traffic from the south. So how do you partner with them? How do you partner with them? That's the other part, right? And I think that's probably the biggest struggle that you're seeing. Some companies aren't vertically integrated. Some companies are vertically integrated, and and some companies are just in a position right now where they're struggling. So there's going to be dispensaries that are in dire need of cultivation, and there's going to be cultivation, and you're seeing it right now. A lot of them are closing that are in dire need for retail, brick and mortar. They need a store to sell their product out of. And the other big thing with that is not doing it prematurely. Why would you open up cultivation and you only have one location, or two locations? I think rule of thumb, minimum 3, and move about it in a smart and calculated way, I think is the best thing.
And I love that you talked about the partnership side of things too. One of the things that I hope this turns around, and you see it in some markets better than others for sure, but I really wish that there was more of a relational bridging of the gap between dispensaries and the brands, right?
Yes.
Because especially in markets where this is happening, right? How do you set yourself apart? One of the things I always tout, and I can see the argument before I even say it. I always tout is, think of it like clothing, right? Everyone, shops at Walmart from time to time, but no one's excited to go shop at Walmart. You're excited to go shop at Louis Vuitton. You want to shop at Louis Vuitton. You want to shop at Boss. You want to go to Calvin Klein. No one wants to be the Walmart of weed. No one should want to be the Walmart of weed, except if you think of it from profitability at the scale that they are at an operation. But from a actual culture standpoint, it's a pot dealer with a doorknob, and no one should strive to be that. You should strive to be the Altiuses of the world, that you walk in and it's like a kid in a candy store. It's like, wow, this is incredible. And the experience they have is equally as impressive. Now, the caveat, and I know the argument, it's, well, Mark, how can that be what you combat the race to the bottom in when markets start to become saturated, when everyone's selling the same products? And I think the way you start doing that is, rather than focus on discounts, et cetera, and over hyper fixating on that, it would be great if you could have really cool, close relationships with brands, so you could start to have unique product launches or exclusivities with certain things from certain times, where it's exciting to go here because it's the only place you can get this limited release of this specific pre-roll from this brand. Or you think about how AT&T did it when the iPhone first came out. They got the exclusive license on that iPhone. It only lasted for about a year, but hey, during that year, it was incredible. So I would love to see, and there's obviously many other ways that brands can support the dispensaries that sell their products as well. But how do you think that it would be the best way to, and maybe it's tactics that you're already doing, to build close relationships with the brands that you operate with and that whose products you sell?
I think that's such an important point. That's such an important point. It's actually something that we've been talking about consistently, in our meetings, in our leadership meetings, is how do we do that? I think, the mistake that some dispensaries make is they think that this vendor is doing you, like you're doing them a favor almost, right? And in reality, you both need each other. You both need each other, right? We need their product. And they need us to sell their product. That's just the truth, right? So it's a give and take. So why is it that vendors are so they're so appreciative, right? They're so thankful, and I love that about the industry. I think that's something I wasn't used to from traditional retail, is that they genuinely just want to go hang out with you and have a dinner. And sure, we might talk a little business, but for the most part, it's just really building that connection. You work with these people consistently. So I think on the flip side of that, right, just starting conversations is the best form of really cultivating that relationship. Is, what can I do for you? Is there a specific category, subcategory, in your lineup of products that you're struggling with that you'd like us to take on, taking the charge on and pushing for you? And, we're ready to go to war just like you guys are ready to go to war for us. And so really, I think part of it is that co-branded sort of marketing approach, I think, is another angle. Good relationships is another angle. Seeing what we could do for these cultivators and these vendors to help them survive and help them be successful, I think, is the other angle. So I think all of those things combined is what can help us make good relationships, understanding that no one's doing anybody a favor. We both need each other, and you know, you need to hit it from both sides. Really, it's got to be a give and take thing.
I love it. I love it. I couldn't agree more. Um,
Absolutely.
you got anything, Desmond? I
I
got
was
so
going
many
to
more things
say,
I want to
I,
touch on,
I
but
love that
you
idea
love
just
this.
coming from a different side of marketing. Like it just makes a lot of sense. Like if you go to a jewelry store, I've worked with jewelry stores for many years in marketing. Like you can only get, like I know my jewelry store, a lot of them only carry authorized retailers of like Tissot watches. You can't get a Tissot anywhere else in the area because they're the authorized retailer. So like it makes sense
Yeah,
that like the brands recognize that and they see that and it's like, okay, well, that would make it less, you have more competition, but it feeds off each other to be like, hey, we're partners with this store, so you have to go there to get it. I think that's a great idea. I was going to ask more. People in today's world have a lot of like, especially the younger generation. They love when
yeah.
a brand has like a social responsibility to give back to the community. I was going to ask, what if what is Altius doing in ways to give back to the community to reach out to the people in different ways and just have that connection with the Illinois itself.
Yeah, man, you guys got some good questions, man. I'm enamored with these questions, right? Because they're the things we talk about consistently. And I think, even just a few days ago, we did something with the Feed My Starving Children organization. So we
That's
partnered with
awesome.
them,
That's
right? They
awesome.
boxed up some lunches, did that. Local police department, just really in general. Even here's the other one too, right? Is we order these rolling trays and pipes and chillums and all these products for consumption. And you got these local guys that are making it right here in your backyard, and you're ordering it from God knows where just because it's a little bit cheaper. But
Hmm.
in reality, right, we're entrepreneurs. Are we doing what we need to do to support local entrepreneurs? And I think that's a big one. If our community is successful and our community is connected, then ultimately you're a pillar in that community and you're helping it out. So, I think when you talk about social equity, I think the original reason that it was created is really to fight back the war on drugs, right? To give back, to take some of that tax and put it back into the community and education, job training, et cetera, the works. And so when you think about that, you have to be focused on that. That's number one. It's great for your business. I think we all recognize that, right? It's great for your business to let the community know that you're here for them and that you're a pillar in the community. And some of these are your local customers, but also to help the little guy, help the guy that's glass blowing down the street, which we are, and we have some events set up with those kind of people. And help the guy down the street that's crafting these rolling trays out of unique wood, and he's trying to make ends meet. And guess what? We put him in the store too immediately. The answer is always yes. We're not focused on pushing out the little guys and partnering with other large MSOs. That's not what it's about. We're actually taking a holistic approach to be very inclusive, and that's something that we wholeheartedly believe and have been doing from the beginning. And when I saw what they were doing from a community engagement standpoint, it's incredible. Like that's not a direction that I had to give. That was just part of their culture. That was what they were breathing from the beginning. So we've just been adding to that.
I
That's
couldn't
awesome.
love that more if I tried. I mean, that is so. It just speaks to the culture that you guys represent and why why you're one of my favorite clients, because it's that
Appreciate that.
nature of giving back and just really caring about others. And it really is a great segue into the what my next question was, which is,
Yeah.
you have so much experience in this world and in this realm across several different markets. And we actually just had a soon to be licensee in New York, actually in our office. He's not even a client yet, but we were giving him a bunch of consultative advice, just simply as like, because we've been in the industry for 11 years in every market that there is, and we wanted to help give him advice on, hey, here's what you need to do. Here are your next steps. Here's the first people, once you do officially have your license as a social equity holder, that first people to like talk to, first technology providers you need to implement. And it was interesting seeing the gears turn, because there's so many people are so unaware, especially if they don't come from a cannabis background, how many different things there are that they need to consider. Different, from point of sale to e-commerce provider to the
Oh yeah.
marketing to
Yeah.
digital marketing to the brands, connecting with brands that you're going to sell. I go on and on. So I guess my question is, from your experience, What advice when it comes to a dispensary who is either starting up or is in that very small phase of their business where they have less than a $50,000 per year marketing budget and they're really bootstrapped? What
Yeah.
advice do you have, given that, kind of a feel will give them the best chance for success? What advice do you have for the little guys, given your entrepreneurial success and background with dispensaries and such a successful one as Altius, to help them really know what it takes and what they need to first think about to be successful and have a right stack?
Yeah. So really it's going to be several different things, right? And I can tell you that it never changes. They might go with a certain POS or kiosk provider or service provider of any kind, vendor, and it's going to change, right? So initially, I think the best thing to do is have a good marketing strategy. Like, you got to bring awareness to your location. That's, I think, the first thing. You have to let people know you're there, and you also have to be strategic as to when you let them know that you're there. Too early could be really detrimental to you, especially if other dispensaries are opening up at the same time. So when you say coming soon, it better be coming soon and not half a year from now, right? And I think, certain things like that is first. Partner with with a good marketing company, and I'm always going to say this. I mean, for us, it's Range all day, right? We're partnering with Range, and the reason for that is, again, because we have a holistic approach. You guys understand our goals, and it's being executed. There's no question about it. I mean, how quick you guys pivot and execute these things that we bring to you. I mean, I feel like sometimes it's random, and then before we know, we have a team that's presenting, making it come to life. And I think when you do that, that's the first thing. Get a good marketing plan and marketing strategy. Hit it from all angles. Not just your billboards like back in the day. I think that helps, but I think accept that it's the future now. Go on to programmatics and begin to do that, right? Really pay attention to your geographic backyard and be smart about how you approach it. So I think that's number one. That's first. Second, do your research when it comes to from a procurement standpoint. Do your research. What brands are the best in that area? I think that's number one. If you can get a good idea and grasp of the volume in certain locations, that might tell you how much product you want to order, right? So not over saturating yourself with a bunch of different brands and a bunch of different product that's just going to sit on your shelves. So be really strategic and do your research when it comes to the local brands. Partner with those local brands. Go out and see the grow operations. I can't tell you, some people don't do that. They just purchase from these cultivators and they never actually go see their cultivation and the quality at which they're doing it, the measures that they're taking. And you see the difference. You go to some cultivations, I mean, their face is lit up. I literally feel like there's going to be Oompa Loompas coming out the back. I mean, it just feels awesome, right?
You usually get some
And
free
and then
product that they rolling out. They're like, hey, try
yeah,
this
I,
goodie
I
bag.
hope. I hope,
Mhm.
right? Yeah. So I think that that's part of it, right? So have a good marketing strategy, have a good procurement strategy in terms of your product lineup and what you're going to have. Make sure that it's very inclusive
Mm.
of all the needs that people might need it for, right? You're going to have people that need it for sleep and pain and inflammation. Some people are going through a really hard time. I made, that was one of my thoughts when I first started in the cannabis industry is this is going to be super Cheech and Chong, right? And it just wasn't. I had some
No.
experiences where people weren't going to be here much longer. They were just trying to be comfortable, and you had to be really careful about the product that you were offering. So have the full lineup and the full solution for your guests. There's people that are very, very brave and people that are still shy about it, and they're barely dipping their feet into it. So, why would you want to come purchase cannabis here and then go to a smoke shop and purchase, a pipe from there? It's going to make you feel weird twice, right? So instead, have have the full solution. Have the full solution so that when your guest leaves, they had everything that they needed. They had the best experience, the best recommendations, right? And so I think that goes on to the next part, which is focus on your experience and just the atmosphere in your store. And a lot of factors go into that, right? We're not just talking about art on the wall, because that's part of it. But it really comes down to the people. So when you are hiring people, I've heard this before, and it kind of kills me. There's some truth to it, but I've heard before that you know, when businesses are first starting out, they recognize that there's going to be a turn in the people that they hire, and they're just trying to really fill those roles initially. And so part of what that does is you're literally saying that you're almost setting yourself up for really low points in your business,
Mm-hmm.
and that cannot happen. So really plan ahead of time before you open. Give yourself enough time to hire the right people. And here's the other one: diverse people. They're not all going to be the same. They're not all robots, right? You're
Yeah.
going to have some people that are super passionate about cannabis, that are extremely educated on cannabis, and then you're going to have your salespeople who like they know, but they really don't know, right? They
Yeah.
just ask you the right questions, and then you're going to have the introverts, but some of the most organized people in the world that are going to help you keep your inventory in check. So hire a diverse team, but try to hire as if it were going to be in place for, you know, the next 5 years. That these are the people that you're going to count on. Don't set yourself up for low points, especially in your initial first year. Your initial first year, you should be celebrating a bunch of wins, understanding your challenges and being able to plug those, but don't give yourself a future problem that you know you're going to have if you're just trying to add bodies to it. So hit it from all those angles. Hit it from all those angles, build those relationships in the industry, and, you know, good marketing, good procurement, and atmosphere, right? And culture, and choosing the right team. And you're going to be successful. And as long as you do those things consistently, and, you know, you don't take your foot off the gas in any of those categories, you will be successful.
Well said.
Yeah.
Well said. And with the culture and atmosphere too, one of the things I was curious about, given the fact that you and the Altius team are expanding now, you know, pretty rapidly into a few new markets, and in different markets, like as so, and I'm sure from here it'll be even further. And I can see both. I can see both strategies as being viable, but I'm curious what yours is, right? Do you pick the locations, given all the careful, investigation you do and data-based information gathering on demographics and areas and such? Do you pick a location that already matches the kind of culture of the standard consumer of Altius, or does each store and the market you're expanding into have a different feel and kind of adherence to the local demographics and culture of the areas you're going into? What's kind of the play, or is it going to be a mix of both?
I think you just hit it on the head, right? It's a mix of both. I think, you know, obviously, if you have low hanging fruit and you found what you might consider the demographic that might be the right area for that, right? I think that might be a win. But alternatively to that, I mean, this is where you start thinking about external factors, like other dispensaries in that same area, because it's such a popular demographic. So
Mm,
that would be a scenario where, even though it's the right demographic, it's the wrong location and it's oversaturated. So
mhm.
it really, you got to look at it from multiple angles. It's about how many dispensaries are in that area. That's number one, and really understand your competition in that area. Two, demographics going to matter for sure, right? Age range, different groups, like different needs. And I think additionally to that, just in terms of just geographically, right? I think, you know, something like a New Jersey, it's like, you know, where do people go in the spring, right? Where are they going? They're going to the Jersey Shore, right? They're going to go fist pump. So if you can position yourself ahead of that curve and really make it to where they're going to have to go through you to get there, then that's smart, right? And if there's nobody around you, even better.
Yep.
So I think, you know, the truth is, you can take an area that has a good amount of population, and as long as there's not other dispensaries there, even if that wasn't the demographic that you thought was best, you can make that area, you know, successful for sure. It's going to take you a little bit of time, and you're going to have to take a really strong approach when it comes to community education, right? And you know, maybe that's going to take you a little too long, depending on the area.
Mhm.
And so those are all factors that you want to consider. There's a lot of low hanging fruit, and then there are those that look like low hanging fruit, and there's a ton of things tied to it on why it's not going to be successful. And I can tell you right now that the owners of this company, they understand that very, very well. I mean, all too well. And when they show you these locations, it's just like, yeah, I totally get why you chose that, right? Like they're
Yep.
thinking about all of these different angles, and you have, two owners that really do share a lot of the same perspective, but they're very vocal about maybe they play to their strengths, better said, right? They play to their strengths, and when they speak about these things, man, they come up with the best locations just to put these dispensaries in.
Wow. Yeah, it's good to have good partners for sure, and to have that insight of um, what's going to set you up for that success. And I'm really,
Yeah.
it's refreshing to hear the amount of research and thought they put behind it. And with that, I think the other thing too to consider, and I'm curious of your stance on it, is on top of just location demographics comes regulations and legislation, right? The other big thing that impacts you. And, I've been
Yeah.
hearing little birdies whispering in my ear, saying, I don't know if you've heard similar, that within the next several weeks to, month or so, there is a high likelihood of cannabis being deschedulized as a lower level narcotic, right? So where, I mean, it's absolutely asinine, and I think everyone in the world and their grandmother, if they have any common sense, will agree that there's no way that cannabis should be scheduled the same level of narcotic as heroin, and it currently is.
Correct. Yeah.
So while who knows what the state and future is of it becoming decriminalized, et cetera, on a federal level, hopefully soon, there's pros and cons to all of that. But at least if that were to be the case, where let's say it went from a Schedule 3 down to a Schedule 1, what do you think are the opportunities that may come with a lower scheduling of it as a narcotic?
Yeah, I mean, so you got to think of it from a business standpoint. That could be a positive thing, and it can also be a scary thing, right? Because
Yep.
all of a sudden, from when I say scary thing, I mean it could be a product that's in businesses that aren't necessarily dispensaries, right?
Mhm.
And so when you think of it that way, then you need a really strong brand presence, because you take someone like, there's a company, I'm not sure if I can name the company, right? But I'll just say that
All
they
right.
have vapes, right? And
Mm.
these vapes, they go all around the United States, but you also see that their Delta 9 products are in smoke shops and gas stations. So, whether it's at a dispensary or at a different business, they're kind of set up for success, right? They're a little bit everywhere. They have a plan B in place. So I think that's the scary side of it. The positive side of it is, again, what I just said. If you have good cultivation, and you've given yourself a good plan B, and you're giving your product to the multiple businesses that are going to adopt this product in their retail location, I think that's where, listen, you better be setting up those good relationships right now. You better be setting up the good relationship with the smoke shop down the street. You better be doing those things right now, and understanding that it really could change.
Yep.
Um, and also, I think from another, business side of it, is as these locations, maybe like the New York market, that's a challenging market. You go into one of those dispensaries, and they pretty much have a pharmacist that pretty much tells you if you really can or can't take that concentrate that you want to try for the first time. So it's not like we could just sell it to you, right? But in the future, if it becomes, if it drops and it becomes rescheduled, then is it smart to start looking at some of those businesses that maybe you wouldn't have looked at before, some of those markets that you wouldn't have looked at before? So those are some of the opportunities, and I think that's just some foresight in what you could do to plan for a plan B in the event that it happens here. Those are some of the things you got to look at.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's such a volatile area when it comes to legislations, because you hear one thing and
It
the
is.
total opposite happens. And
Yeah.
I think paired with the stigma and legislation comes one of the things that now hopefully, and I'm curious how your experience has been with this in Illinois. Um, eh, there's always in every market, some more than others. It's probably very nil in a market like California. Markets like
Yeah.
New York, there's a bit of it, and markets like Mississippi, there's a whole bunch of it, is the taboo
Yeah.
and stigma around cannabis, right? Mississippi at the extreme, you're terrified as a potential new consumer to be seen walking into a dispensary because Aunt Sally's coming out of church to do her daily prayer, and she sees you, and all of a sudden the whole community is gonna come at you with picket forks.
Yeah.
So we have markets that are very extreme like that, where there's this huge fear of dispensaries curiosity too, but a taboo that you have to really get unique with your marketing and how you cater to the demographics. New York, there's a lot of, I always I always talk about how the terrible experience my mom had, coming from being a teacher, being very anti-cannabis, to having the level of
Yeah.
health issues that she has today that is so, disheartening. And unfortunately, that level of care and education that I know Altius and your bud tenders provide was not there. And so she got her medical card at the time, went to a medical dispensary, was just handed a product based on level of THC to CBD, and there was
Yeah.
no education behind it, did not get the effects that she was hoping for, and completely disavowed cannabis as a potential solution for her issues. And I think of that with the older demographics, the new demographics trying it for the first time, regardless of age or whatever. And how do you, given the markets that you're in and going into, cater to not just the eager and excited and legacy cannabis consumer, but to the maybe apprehensive consumer who has some taboo preconceptions to cannabis?
Yeah, great question, right? So I think this is the original reason. So I'm gonna bring it back up to the surface, but dynamic DNA, that's the reason that we signed that exclusivity and we wanted to take on that product,
Mm.
right? So I think, it right now, some doctors are, they may feel confident in it, they might feel indifferent, or they might just truly be against it. And so it's not something that's really being prescribed, right? And so if you think about it, if there was a scientific way to do that, if I swabbed your mouth, send it into a lab, and it tells me specifically the dosing. It tells me what specific terpenes are going to react well with your body, what specific cannabinoids, right? So, really, a scientific approach. I think that is going to be the difference, and I think that's where it should head. Is making sure that we're really letting this is our tagline, but really letting your DNA be your consultant. That's the truth, right?
Ooh, I like that. That's a
Mhm.
good tagline.
I do
So
too.
let your body tell you what it is that it needs and how much of that it needs, right? And I think that's really where you're going to take the taboo away from it, right? Maybe somebody truly doesn't want the psychoactive effects. And are you asking the right questions for them to make sure that you offer something like that? Right. I've
Mhm.
had people come in here and they're doing a 20-to-1, right? Of CBD. They wanted 20 milligrams of CBD and only 1 of THC, and they come back in continuously for that product because it's addressing what they needed. And so I think that's the difference is how do you go to different doctors, hospitals, retirement homes, gyms, even, right? Like for topicals, and how do you do that? How do you educate a community?
Mhm.
Right? How do you educate the community? How do you show people that this isn't just about the psychoactive effects and feeling that way, that there's all these different benefits. I mean, we sell products right now that have THCV, right? A lot of people don't recognize that. You think about the munchies when you think about smoking. Well, what if I gave you something that was an appetite suppressant that gave you energy and was an alternative to coffee? Some of these cannabinoids, they promote bone growth. You would never think that, right?
Wow.
But that's the difference, is that because people aren't educated, or maybe they come in for the first time and they're afraid to speak to you, so they go
Yep.
straight to the kiosk, they choose the thing that tests the highest in THC, and they ruin their experience and they never want to come back, and they go, that wasn't for me. I think that's how you remove the stigma. It's through education, and it's easier said than done, but I
Mhm.
think the first step is going to be to take that scientific approach. It's your first time, take the DNA, that dynamic DNA kit, use it, and let your body tell you what you need.
And I wish that those things had been around sooner, right? And
Me
thank goodness
too.
that they're starting to come around now. And
Yeah.
massive excitement around the exclusivity that you have with this product. 'Cause I can't wait to see how it brings the next level care and informative decision making to the industry. And I think
Yeah.
when you pair that too to some of the unique marketing ideas that I know you've implemented as well, it helps ensure that consumers, no matter how they're engaging with you, don't make that mistake. Don't immediately get scared or have the
Yeah.
taboo, go right to the kiosk or something online and inform decisions so they have a better experience. And I know, one of the things when we were developing the website with you, the idea around how do we, from a digital perspective, knowing a lot of people who have taboo will choose to shop online first, probably many times before they actually come
Yes.
inside. how do we make sure that we drive them to find, especially if they don't know the terpenes or the cannabinoid profiles, or even the difference between indica and sativa? How do we ensure that they find the product that in some way best suits the feel state that they're looking to achieve, or
Yeah.
the alleviation of something? And the section of the website that we built with you guys, where it was based on selecting feel states, directing them to the products that match that feel state,
Yes.
I think was huge for that, and to set that up for success. And then when you pair that now with the technology that companies like Terply have, and the integration that we have with you guys with Terply built in, where they use actual like true AI to find the best top 3 recommendations for any given field state and any given
Yeah.
product type. And it helps give that bud tender experience to anyone, whether they're in store with your real bud tenders, to online, to the virtual bud tenders, and the immersive experience to your online menu and platform. It just, you're taking care of your patients is what you're doing. You're taking
Yeah.
care of your customers and making sure that they don't make the mistake of getting the wrong thing and having a bad impression of the industry that can really truly give them help.
So think about that, right? So for a minute, it's certain behaviors. So if I ordered online and I walk into a dispensary and I walk up to the counter, the only person that could potentially save me from either a really bad experience or give me any insight on it is that person at the register.
Yeah.
So then those are the type of behaviors, and I always talk about behaviors, right? I always talk about
Mhm.
when you're trying to drive a great customer experience or drive sales, what do? You drive behaviors, right? That's can we see our team doing it? Can we hear our team doing it? And if you can look at the register, right, and really listen and see our team really asking, hey, like you got the wild the CBN gummies, right? So you have some trouble sleeping maybe, right? And then they like, no, I'm not. I'm actually looking for something for the day. Did we really stop? Were we the final filter, especially if it's an online order? Were we the final filter and making sure that you take home the right product, not just looking at you as a number, just scanning the product and making you go out the door? Is even that, even from an online perspective, number one, it's smart if you're a business owner to make sure that you're trying to increase your basket size based on the customer's need, so attachment rate. But then on the flip side of that, it's extremely beneficial to the customer because you're actually reviewing the items in their cart and making sure they're taking the right product, especially if they ordered it online. Who do they have to reference except themselves, right? And of course, like you said, the AI bud tender. I think that's why we put that in there as a fail safe. We're hoping that works, and it has. I mean, the data shows it. People definitely use it. They get recommendations and they go for it because it's tailored to them. That's the goal.
That's it. And that tailored experience just allows people to really fall in love with what cannabis is supposed to be about, which is
Yeah.
it's so fun, and it's fun to see. And I can't wait to see the expansion of Altius into all these new markets and beyond, right? Because it's what you're bringing to the industry. Many don't, unfortunately. And I can't wait for every market you're in to truly experience what cannabis is supposed to be about. So I want to thank you for the work that you and everyone over at Altius puts in. And to finish it off with one final question to cap off the podcast episode and interview is,
Yeah.
you've done so much with Altius. You have such a holistic and truly genuine why behind the reason you're in this industry, and I'd love to hear from your perspective. And if, take a second if you want to think about it, but what really is, in your opinion, the most rewarding part of your job and being a part of this industry to date?
Yeah. Man, this is one where if you would have asked me this question in the beginning, you wouldn't have been able to ask me other questions because I would have went into it. It's
Mm.
the most rewarding thing about this from we'll start from a business perspective. It's what I said in the beginning. I'm literally getting to build this from the ground up. And by the way, I'll say that I've been here a short period of time with Altius specifically, right? Not to the industry, but with Altius, and you got incredible people, man. You have Don, who's incredible with our procurement, Justina, who's incredible with our marketing. The rest of the leadership team here, they're the ones that did it, the owners of the company who were really strategic. So I think, me getting to join that growth, offering some of my skill set from my previous background, in retail, I think that's rewarding in itself from a personal perspective, right? And I think, the other rewarding side from a personal perspective is, I got 5 kids and a wife. So them seeing where I'm headed here too is pretty incredible. And so that part is rewarding in itself. But when you look at how is it rewarding from a people perspective, employee guest experience, I love developing people, right? That's one of my favorite things is really showing someone how to look at your business holistically and really go after it with being really intentional. So getting people to that next step, and making sure that we're building a bench of talent here in Altius, right? And making sure that as we expand, our own people get those opportunities. I think that's huge, right? And that's something that I'm definitely focused on, and that's rewarding in itself. And then again, from a customer perspective, everything that we've done to make sure that someone gets the right product in those scenarios, right? Like when they're going through a really hard time in their life, when they're struggling with cancer or Parkinson's, anything like that, right? Or just in general, any type of illness, and us getting to alleviate that even a little bit, that's about as rewarding as it gets, right? You're getting it from all angles. And I think that's what's beautiful about the cannabis industry versus other industries is we're literally helping people every single day. We really truly are, right? And I get to be a part of that. So I think holistically it's rewarding.
Wow. Wow.
That's amazing.
Wait, you trying to drive us to tears at the end of the episode, man.
Yeah.
It's just,
I appreciate that, man.
But seriously, that's beautiful, and that's what it's all about, and I love that. And I couldn't be happier to have you on as a guest and as a client, and as a friend, right? And that's what this industry is all about, is the relationships that we build and cultivate through our years in it. And I'd say that if there's anything that really makes cannabis unique, it's how relational the industry is, and it's one of the things that I'm so truly feel to blessed by being a part of, because it's these relationships and these friendships that we build that allow us to experience life in such a better way. So thank you for that. Thank you, Altius, for being just the amazing, staple of the industry that you are. Thank you, Jeff, for allowing Isaac for being able to come on this show and do what he does and give such an amazing interview. And we're excited for the future of Altius and the future of the industry and working together and all the things that we're going to do. So, hats off to cannabis, hats off to Altius, and here we are, Desmond and I, ready to sign off.
Hats off to Range, man. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this has been quite amazing. I know I've been quiet, but in all honesty, y'all answered every question I was going to ask. So I was like, the natural flow of this podcast has gone very well, but I appreciate all the insight because I learn things every single time and get to meet some genuinely great people. And and you are one. So this has been great for me. And I'm just happy to get a chance to speak to you.
Appreciate that, man. Thank you.
All right.
Absolutely.
Till next time. Range Cast is out.
Till next time.